Hey everybody, today we're going to make a project based on a book called Platypus Lost. Okay, it's going to be about patterns. So let's take a look at the actual book and I'll tell you kind of what it's about. So this book is called Platypus Lost by Janet Stevens, and uh, you might not have it at home, and that's okay. If you wanted to get it from Amazon, it looks like it's kind of out of print, and you can buy the hardcover for 30 cents, or you can get this paperback for $935, which I don't know what that's about. I assume there's a check in there for $925. Um, but I'll put a link in the description of this video that to a couple of YouTube videos where people read it so that you can hear the book and get an idea of what it's about. But the book is written in a way that talks about patterns, and this project is also going to be about patterns. So let's take a look here, and we will go back and make this plaid pattern that we have here. So what you're going to need is a piece of paper and a couple of colors. You can choose any two colors that you want to for the pattern. I'm using blue and green, but you can make your plaid for your platypus in any pattern that you want. Okay, so plaid is a kind of pattern that you'll see on shirts and the skirts at Prince of Peace too. So we're going to make our own plaid pattern. So what I'm going to do is start, and this is a 9 by 12 inch piece of paper, but you can make it whatever size works for you at your house. So I'm going to start with one color, and I'm going to do two skinny lines. Okay, 1, 2, and I'm going to put those pretty close to each other. And then I'm going to switch to my other color, and I'm going to leave a little extra space here, and I'm going to make a thicker line. Okay, so I'm going to color a little bit and make this a thick line instead of a thin line. And then I'm going to switch back to my green, and then I'm going to do two more thin lines next to each other. And then I'm going to do a thicker line, and I'm going to leave a little space in between. Okay, and I'm just going to repeat that pattern over and over because that's what a pattern does. It repeats. Two skinny lines, one thicker line. Okay, and try to keep the spacing sort of how you see here. There's a little more space in between the different colors, and then the two thin lines stay right next to each other. Okay, I'm using crayons for this because we're going to do a little watercoloring later, and we want those crayons to resist. If you had oil pastels, you could use those too, but the crayons end up being a little cleaner to use than the oil pastels. So that's why we're going to use those for this one. Okay, so there's my vertical lines. Okay, now I'm going to do horizontal lines. You can turn your paper this way if you want to, okay, but I'm going to leave it this way for the video so you have an idea of what we're doing here. Okay, now I'm going to use the same pattern, but I'm going to switch it and make it opposite. So last time I did two thin green lines, so this time I'm going to do two thin blue lines, and then I'm going to do a thicker green line. Okay, so the pattern is the same, thin, thin, thick, but the colors switched on the pattern. So I'm going to do two blue lines and then one thicker green line, and then two thin lines and one thicker green line. And then we'll see if we can finish it off with two blue lines at the end. Okay, and this works pretty good. This can work as a plaid pattern if you don't have watercolors at home. You don't necessarily need to do the next part for the painting, but if you do have some watercolors, it's kind of cool to do this next part. So let me get that set up and we'll get ready to do that. Okay, so I got my water. I've got something to mix the paint into, okay? And I've got these tube watercolors here. So you can use the ones that are just in the pans if that's what you have at your house, but I'm going to use this for now. I'm going to put a little bit of the paint in here, and I'll put a little of the blue over here. And then I'm going to put some water in there because I want to make sure that there's enough water. So if you have those pan watercolors, you can get a little spray bottle like this, or you can just pour a little water in there to make sure you have plenty of water mixed into your watercolors so that they'll resist okay. And then I would start with the lighter color first. These colors are both about the same, so green and blue will both work okay. And then we're going to paint over our lines. So anywhere that I have blue, I'm just going to paint over it with the green, so the opposite colors are going to work. So I'm going to take my green, and over the blue lines, I'm going to put in some green, okay? So for this one, I just want kind of a thin line, and you're going to notice that if everything's working right with your crayons, that the watercolor is not going to want to stick to the blue, okay? So it'll work. That's called a resist, where the wax pushes the water away from the paint. So I'm going to do my green color next to, or right over the top of, my blue line. And then I'm going to do this again on all of these blue lines. Okay. Then what I want to do is I want to do the same thing on the thin blue lines as well. Okay. So I might make this line a little bit thicker. So I'll go in between here. Got to get that out of the way. And we're going to paint over the thin blue lines. With that, okay? So try not to get a ton of paint onto here, because you're going to want to have that paint dry enough that it doesn't bleed too much into the other colors, okay? So you don't need a ton of paint. You want it to dry fairly fast, okay? So now I've got my green over my blue. We'll mix up our blue paint and put the blue over the top of the green. Okay, so let's see here. I've got the blue all mixed up, and we're going to do the same idea. This time the blue is going to go over the top of the green. And it's all right if your color is still a little wet from the first color. The colors will kind of mix together a little bit, and that's okay. We're not going to worry about it too much for this project, okay? So the blue is going to go over the top of the green, kind of in a thin line. You don't want to make it go over the edge too much. You're not trying to paint in the entire piece of paper. Okay? You want to have some white showing still, okay? But you can see how the colors where everything is wet will kind of bleed in or mix into each other, and that's okay, okay? Not a problem. If you didn't want that to happen, you probably would need to wait for the first color to dry, and then you can paint the second color over it. But we're not going to worry about it too much for this demonstration or what we're doing here, okay? And then we're going to do the blue over the top of the skinny green lines, and that line will be a little bit thicker, and it looks pretty cool because the color pushes it away. So both of these colors are similar, blue and green. One is not way darker or lighter than the other one, so there's not as much contrast in there. But if you tried two colors that were different, like yellow and purple or orange and blue or something like that, those colors would be contrasting quite a bit more, and you would see a little different look to your plaid pattern. But this works okay too. So if you like this, try 2 or 3 different color schemes and see what kind of pattern you end up with. See if you like it. You can come up with one or another that you like. So we've got everything painted on this plaid pattern for today, and then just set that aside to dry for a little bit, and then we'll work on the next part. So there's kind of our plaid pattern working out with the thin lines and the thick lines and the different colors of paint. So let me get this out of the way, and then we'll come back and do the next part. Okay, so in the book, the platypus is a stuffed animal that gets lost and found and those kinds of things. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the parts for the platypus. So we're going to need some hands and feet, okay? Sort of like the little webbed feet of the platypus. And then we're going to need the kind of duck bill. And this is what it's going to look like. I'll show you how to draw it, and we'll cut it out. And we'll also make some eyes as well. And then we'll wait till that other part dries, and then we'll get everything cut out next time. So they'll probably be in part 2. So let's start with this. You can use a black crayon if you want to, or a pencil. I'm gonna use a black crayon so you can see a little better on the screen, but a pencil will work just fine. So first thing that you want to do is make the bill for the platypus. So it's like a big oval, okay? And then we're gonna add a little oval on top of it, okay? So like that. And then you can add a little bottom part if you want to, okay? So there's like the bottom of the bill, okay? And there would be little nose holes here, okay? But this is just the back side. We'll cut this out and flip this over. So, but you can sketch this in so you get kind of an idea of what you're doing. Then we're gonna make the feet, okay? And all you have to do is make 3 little bumps. 1, 2, 3, kind of like that. And then just make them come together a little bit. And then I put these things here to remind me that that's kind of like the little webbed foot for the platypus. And I'm using what it looks like in the book as my main idea here. So we're going to make 3 of those. 1, 2, 3. Well, we need 4 of them, but we'll make 3 more. Okay? And then 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Okay? And those will be the 4 feet for our platypus, along with this big duckbill looking part, that duckbill platypus. If you want some eyes, if you want it to look like the one in the book, then we'll use some black and we'll make little buttons for eyes. So because it's a stuffed animal, it'll look like it has buttons. So what I'll do is just draw a couple of circles, and if you want to put a little circle inside so it looks like it has a little rim on it, like the button edge, and then I'll put the little dots on there so it would look like how it would be stitched in. So we've got our bill, our feet, and our eyes. Then go ahead and grab your scissors and just cut these things out, okay? So we'll cut out the circle for the eyes, and we'll cut out the other parts as well, okay? So you can kind of rough cut things first. I find that's kind of easier, is to cut out a piece of paper so it's out of your way. And then don't cut through the inside. You want this all to come out as one piece. Okay. Here we go. Okay. And so that's the front side. So we flip it over, then we can add the little holes for the nose. We can add this part here, okay, so that it looks kind of like the mouth. And we'll do a little bit more detail after we're done gluing everything on, but that's a good start there. So cut out the other button. When you cut out the feet, not too much else to know. Okay. I'll show one, then we'll finish this video up for now, and we'll call this part 1, and then we can finish up next time. Okay, so let's snip into there a little bit more. Okay, and then you keep it like this if you want to, or you can flip it over. It'll be clean on the other side, and I'll cut the other ones out, and we'll call it good for now. Okay, there we go. So we got all 4 feet cut out. We got the 2 eyes and the duck bill for the platypus. So that'll be it for part 1. Check out part 2 after our paper dries, and we will make the rest of this project. All right, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.